Hey everyone, welcome back to another Merge Tactics video, and since it's been about a week and a half into the new Merge Tactics season, I thought it'd be time to rank every single troop in the game, so you guys know what to use and what not to use. Now, we're going to start off with last place, which is the Firecracker. Now, the Firecracker was recently buffed, I think, but she still has pretty bad damage, and she has bad HP, and she has a bad fire rate, and her special attack takes way too long, and because she has like no HP, and Forest only gives invisibility to the lowest HP unit on the field, the invisibility is pretty much always wasted on the Firecracker when you'd rather have it on something like a Boss Bandit or Bandit. So Firecracker is just kind of there as like a filler unit if you want to go 6 out of 6 Forest, and that is why she is last. 35th place is Archer. And the Archer is kind of similar to the Firecracker, but she has better HP, and she also synergizes that HP with Clan, and she gets pretty tanky. But she still has terrible damage, but at least she's ranged. Her fire rate is better than the Firecracker, and that makes her a bit more consistent, which is good for especially the early game. 34th place, we have the Barb, and the Barb is kind of in a similar boat to the Archer. He has slightly better damage, and he has pretty solid HP, but that just means he's not that good at anything. He's a melee troop with mediocre HP. It's not the best, not the worst. So, he's kind of there just to be a tank. If you do need a tank for your comp and you need something cheap, then the Barb is the way to go. But if you're trying to win rounds, the only reason I'd ever use the Barb is in a full clan comp. Next up, we have the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Now, this one might be a controversial take because the Mini P.E.K.K.A. actually is a guaranteed forced pretty much if you are running Spirit Empress, but his problem is that he hits way too slow. It takes 5 seconds for him to charge up his 2 shots and then level up a troop, and in that time, because he has less than 2k HP at 4 stars, he gets melted by any splash or anything targeting him. And like, even if you put him like behind the front line, there's still gonna be like Wizard Splash, maybe like an Archer Queen or like a Princess, and he just tends to die. I can never get the Mini P.E.K.K.A. to do what I want. And it might be a skill issue, but until I see a Mini P.E.K.K.A. do anything useful for me, he's gonna sit right here. Next up, we have the Ghost. The Ghost is basically a Barb with slightly better stats, just marginally. And Undead does give the Ghost some stat buffs, and this Ghost does get invisibility, but normally the Ghost doesn't really do much of anything, and those stat buffs are better used on other undead troops. So I only ever really use Ghost in like 6 out of 6 undead. Next up, we have the Knight. Now, the Knight is kind of like the Barb in that he's a pretty good tank, except he's just purely a tank. He's just a body on the field to soak up some damage. Does basically no damage at all. And that is why the Knight is down here. I mean, his tankiness is worth using, but if you're gonna run a 4 noble comp, I'd rather use something else other than Knight, unless you're running like something that needs tanks, such as Bandit or Boss Bandit. And so the Knight's really just there. Next up, we have the Goblin. The Goblin's only purpose really is as an early game unit to cycle for Elixir, especially if you're an Empress player. But anyone who wants to go for Goblin trait early game should use the Goblin. But he has no HP, solid damage, I guess, and the hit rate's pretty good. But the lack of HP really is the problem here. So you can't use him mid-game for any reason. You can see here that there's a 3-star Goblin getting destroyed by a 1-star Dark Goblin. So, yeah, not that useful. And then we have the Spear Goblin. Spear Goblin is basically just a Goblin with range, and the damage comes in more of chunks than like consistent DPS. And that's why Spear Goblin is ranked above, because of the range. It's just more useful, and maybe you can use like a 3-star Spear Goblin mid-game. Next up, we have the Magic Archer. Magic Archer has almost the exact same DPS as Archer, but he has the bonus of the extra hit speed with Forest, and he has the occasional bouncing shot, which is really useful, and is good damage, but only at 3 stars, really. Lower level Magic Archer is mainly just a cheap early game unit that you can use to cycle. Next up, we have the Bomber. I think the Bomber is the best 2 Elixir troop. Bomber has basically the same DPS as Ghost, but the Bomber gets splash damage, which is way better than the Ghost single target, and it's only 2 Elixir, and you get the Undead buff. Next, we have the Dark Goblin. The Dark Goblin, I would say, is probably one of the best early game troops because of how consistent his damage is, and he's moderately tanky, does very good damage. I just don't think the Dark Goblin scales well because late game it seems to me this meta there's a lot more burst damage preference over consistent damage, and the Dark Goblin's not really good for burst. Next we have the Valk. Valk to me is basically just a knight with splash damage and better traits. I think Clan the bonus HP is more useful than the Nobles. Um, well, it's kind of about the same really, but I think the Valk is just more useful as a tank because of the splash damage. You can soften up some of the units for. Let's say you have an Archer Queen, helps the Archer Queen kill them a bit faster. And she is actually slightly less tanky than the Knight, but I also found that I feel like I get 6 out of 6 Clan more often than 6 out of 6 Noble. So in practice, it feels like it's more HP, um, and the damage improvement is welcome. Next up, I have the Xe. Xe is just okay. He does pretty solid damage because it's double. My main problem with the Xe is that he misses a lot when something is like walking to another troop, and maybe that's just like a skill issue, bad placement. But really, I think Xe needs some way to deal burst damage in a way that he like in prior seasons when he had Ace, that was a lot of damage and he could heal, basically unkillable. But now, he's just kind of there as like a filler unit for Forest. Next up, I have the Goblin Cage. Some people might disagree with me on this. Goblin Cage is a very tanky unit, but the problem with Goblin Cage is that he comes too late. And what I mean by that is I like having goblins early game and then selling all my goblins for other stuff. You can't consistently get Goblin Cage every game. And then if you do get Goblin Cage, you have to kind of... There's really not any point in having a Goblin Synergy, unless you're like playing like Duchess and you're broke. So yeah, the Goblin Cage is really just there as maybe something you could use if you're like on the 5 troops round. But otherwise, I wouldn't really run Goblin Cage. 22nd, I have Demolisher. Demolisher, I think, is just very useful to reduce HP loss because he runs to the lowest HP unit, blows up in their face, and then that can maybe save you some HP or two. And especially if you can level up your Demolisher, that's like a guaranteed kill to most troops. Well, most ranged troops. I wouldn't say tanks. So, yeah, just like a overall very consistent unit. But late game, you can't really choose. Like it's harder to choose where you want the Demolisher to go. So sometimes it just ends up wasted. Next up, I have the Royal Giant. Royal Giant is just a very good tank, and he also does solid damage. But other than that, he's not really special. He doesn't have any special abilities. It's just great for full Noble. If you do end up getting Royal Giant in your game and like Noble's already blocked, I wouldn't use Royal Giant because he's kind of reliant on that Noble extra damage to make him like worthwhile to use. Because if he doesn't have it, then it's pretty mediocre. 20th, I have Goblin Machine. Goblin Machine is nice because nobody ever contests him. But the problem is, well, he's a goblin, mid to late game goblin, and you don't really want to use that. And his shooting animation with the rockets takes a second. Like, he can charge up really quickly, but it doesn't come fast enough, it feels. And that means you kind of need some other tank to take damage for a Goblin Machine or to take stuns. So Goblin Machine can have the time to do those rocket launches. And if you don't have that, then it's not really worth using. 19th, I have the Bandit. Bandit feels a lot better this season, but her problem is still that she's really squishy, and her damage itself is not that great. She relies on the dash to do most of her damage and the stun to keep her alive. So she's only really worth using as a 3-star. 2-star Bandit I wouldn't use. And yeah, she's really good with the superstar ring. If you ever ran into that, it's really obnoxious. But other than that, she just needs tanks for it to work. 18th, I have the Princess. Princess is really good in certain modifiers, such as the one where the poison's like slowly creeping in on the arena. That one's really great for Princess. But her problem is because she attacks the farthest unit, she tends to attack backline units, and they tend to spread apart more than the frontline units. So you're not really hitting what's important. Or if maybe you're like sniping like a wizard. But that's going to take a while to kill. It doesn't come fast enough. So I think Princess sits well here. She's just kind of modifier dependent. Next up, I have the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon does really good splash, but his problem is his individual damage is not that great. That means that he can't really win a 1v1 situation if he's your last troop alive. You need a tank to like draw in other troops for him to splash on. But the force is pretty useful with the hit speed buff. 16 dive witch. Witch is really good with Tomb Queen, but you have to run a 4 or 6 out of undead. You can't run 2 undead with witch, it feels. Her skeletons, I don't remember if they scale. If they do scale, it's really insane. But if they don't, then she's just kind of average. She does really good burst damage though with her regular hit, and she's also good at tanking. Maybe I should have put witch higher, but she just doesn't. You can't really feel the synergy too much unless you're running like 4 or 6 out of undead. Next, I have the Skelly King. I think the Skelly King has really good tankiness. I think he's like the second best tank in the game. My problem with Skelly King is that he's way too slow. One of my games, he just got like faked by the Archer Queen like continuously. Like he would walk one way and like turn back. Like it's too slow. That I think that's his problem. He needs support to actually make him like a viable unit. Next up, I have the Prince. I think the Prince might be the most versatile unit in the game. You can use him for like, well, actually not the most versatile. I'd say like most creative actually. You can use him to knock back like Duchess players as like Golden Knights or like Archer Queens. You can knock back like Giant Skellies. You can even knock back like a Monk, if like you're trying to play for a draw and like slowly chip away the opponent's HP. He's just very useful in a lot of circumstances. So, I think Prince belongs here. His stats are pretty mediocre, though. 13, I have Musk. I think Musk is a very consistent troop, does good damage. Knockback stun is really insane, especially like a 3-star Musk. Like, just knocks back everything. And so, she's one of those, like, cards that you can use late game as well, and it still works great. Next, I have the Wizard. Wizard is kind of like a princess, except he hits the important stuff, and he gets the HP buff and occasional hit speed buff with clan if you don't have like a 3-star Archer Queen. So he does really insane damage. Most of the time he's like my second highest damage if I'm running like full clan besides like Archer Queen. So just all around good to use. Great early game, great mid game, great late game. Next up I have the Giant. The Giant is like the only counter to Monk because he does damage based on percentage. He's just like every few seconds he gets like a super punch, and then otherwise he doesn't really do anything. He just tanks. That's kind of his purpose. But he does get really good HP, because if you get Giant, you can run 6 clan. Next up, I have the Boss Bandit. I think the Boss Bandit is way better this season because of all of her HP buffs. Her damage is still great, and she's not as much of a glass cannon. Her problem is she needs a lot of spacing. She needs tanks, and she needs room to dash back and then dash forward again to do her maximum damage. But also, a 4-star Boss Bandit actually gets a hit speed. So she's dashing like every second and a half, which is kind of insane. That's a lot of damage. 9th I have Electro Giant. Electro Giant is solid. He has good HP. He has pretty average damage, not that great. But his main selling point is the electric ability. He stuns everything with that. And his aura, his electric field is okay. It doesn't recast unless you have Superstar Ring. That's why he was broken in the past. But that electric trait buff with the stun is so unfair. So really, I think he, like, if you're running Electro Giant, just have him in the front line. Maybe he'll stun. You definitely need a lot of support with him though. 8th, I have Giant Skelly. Giant Skelly is like a one-off bomb. Just blows up everything. He's great against Duchess players with like Golden Knights and Queens. You just put the Giant Skelly on top, or if you have a 3-star, it doesn't matter where he is. You just need to make sure he dies first. And everything is just stunned, and that buys you so much time. Like that, it's like 2 seconds, I think. You can do anything in 2 seconds. Next up, I have the Mega Knight. I think Mega Knight is just a locked Giant Skelly, pretty much. If you're playing Empress, you basically get a guaranteed 4-star Mega Knight, and because of the boss trait, 25% buffs to all of his stats. He's just better than the Giant Skelly in all of those regards, except, you know, he's gatekept. His stun is also solid. My problem is that he doesn't seem to do that much damage. Definitely needs a lot of support. And sometimes, like, I find that my other troops die before the Mega Knight, so, not great in that scenario. 6th, I have the P.E.K.K.A. P.E.K.K.A. is, like, super tanky, as most boss troops are, besides Mini P.E.K.K.A. Guaranteed 4-star with Empress, and that's so much damage. But my problem with the P.E.K.K.A. is that she's also way too slow, and she keeps getting like, if the opponent has like a Musk, your P.E.K.K.A's not getting to. Kind of needs support as well, just like the Mega Knight. If I have Skelly Dragons, this one might also be a bit controversial, but Skelly Dragons is just so much worse than last season, because of all those nerfs. And also I feel like Undead is just not as good this season as well. You have to, like, because you need to survive pretty long. Is people, I feel like games aren't as narrow this season as they were in the past. So, yeah, Skelly Dragons are just here. Also, when your troop is taking 80% of the surrounding troops, I mean, it's just like a solo carry. And if the Skelly Dragons get like stunned, like Musks or like bandits, they're just screwed. So, yeah, situational, but but if you can get the 6 out of 6 undead, then you're pretty much set to win, unless the opponent gets the best troop in the game, which I will get to, but you can probably already guess what it is. Fourth place, I have Golden Knight. Golden Knight is worse than last season. He does damage slower. His dash also feels less consistent. Sometimes he like kills something and just stands there for like a solid second, like an NPC, and just doesn't do anything. But he still like solo carries teams, so definitely worth running and going for. But I think the best regular troop in the game is Archer Queen. I put Archer Queen above Golden Knight because her invisibility, and also because of like the new changes they made to drops. You can get a 4-star Archer Queen the same chances you have like a 4-star Golden Knight. I feel like the 4-star Queen is just better, because she goes invisible like every shot. She's like perpetually invisible, hits every target, mows everything down. It's so unfair. So yeah. It's the most unfair troop in the game if you get a 4-star, unless, Monk. Oops, I spoiled that. But whatever. Queen, best regular troop in the game. Second best troop in the game, might be controversial. I have the Ewiz. I think the Ewiz has pretty mid stats, but the electric ability is unfair, like I said with the Electro Giant earlier. But secondly, his ability is like another stun. So I noticed like in games, like, at 3 seconds, there's like a stun. At 6 seconds, there's like another stun. Each stun is like 2 seconds. So the enemy troop is just stunned for like a solid 4 seconds. I think the E is like stunned, like comes back. And everything is just stunned. And if you have any support, which you should, if you're playing Ewiz, or if you're still alive that late into a game where you can get the Ewiz, then you're gonna win. But the best troop that counters everything is 4-star Monk. I don't know why this still exists. But I had a game where my Monk did 57,000 damage. The only like I still lost because he ran out of time, which is the only way you can like lose if you get the Monk. I should not have lost that though. I mean, I was down like 10-1, but yeah, this guy is not fair. Okay, yeah, thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.